The Williams Campaign Town Hall Meeting for Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, District 2.
We're really talking about a movement throughout the country. If you look at the polls, if you listen to our people, there's a new vibe in the air.
Dr. Izza, so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Tanisha Adams over here, South Toledo, Marine City. I got your back. I'm here for you.
Thank you, Tanisha. And I've been seeing your post, so thank you.
Yes.
Good evening. I'm Fran Eddings, and I am here to support you.
Hey everyone, my name is Juna and
Andre.
Welcome.
Orlando, Florida.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being here. Talk about homelessness, which is what is to have an effective way of solving the homeless crisis for people. So now you got old homeless on top of new homeless, and it's just out of control. But LA is infamous it's the homeless capital of the world. Whatever we can do to solve the problem here in Los Angeles County can be a model nationwide. But all starts with the continuum of care. It is a U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development initiation. So continuum of care are solo autonomies that are not connected. They may be funded, but they're not connected to the local governance. For example, LA County and LA City, they were blaming each other on the homeless crisis. In 1994, they decided to create the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. That is the only entity that's supposed to service everything homeless in LA County. So that starts from homeless shelters, funding to homeless services, providing beds, care, you name it, that's what they're under. 58 counties in the state of California, but there are only 44 continuum of care. So that means there's 14 counties that doesn't even have a continuum of care. And so each of them is made up according to their city. If there is no oversight or if there's no knowledge of what even a COC is, continuum of care, then that's where the homeless crisis get blamed, and it's partially to blame to the mayor or the Board of Supervisors, even the state governor, Gavin Newsom. He does not run the COCs. His job as a politician is to oversee it and to make sure that it is ran properly. I could say one of the worst by far after LA is San Francisco, San Diego, Sacramento, and Oakland. So those are some of the highest rates of homelessness in this area. And so here, what you're looking at is just a sample of the San Francisco continuum of care. As you see, when you identify them, you can pinpoint the problem. So a lot of these players, they are recyclable, knowledgeable. Some of them are not experienced in the field. So there's not a sense of urgency, unfortunately, to solve this crisis. It is a huge moneymaker. So Los Angeles County and each district has about 2 million constituents in each. LA County 2 is one of the only districts that has the highest rate of folks. We have the cities that are included in District 2. As you see here, you got parts, Inglewood, Hawthorne, El Segundo, Lawndale, Gardena, Compton, Carson, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach. And some of these here, El Segundo, Manhattan, Hermosa, and Redondo, they were just recently added through the redistricting of District 2. The unincorporated areas, Athens, Baldwin Hills, Del Air, Del Rey, East Gardena, El Camino Village, Rancho Dominguez, Walnut Park, West Rancho Dominguez, Florence, Firestone, Ladera Heights, Lenox, Marina Del Rey, View Park, Winter Hills, West Carson, Willowbrook. And then you have border neighborhoods as well, Crenshaw, Baldwin Hills, pretty Xmas. You have where Fairfax, Hancock Park, Harbor Gateway, Koreatown, Launchmart, Miracle Mile, South Vermont, Watts, West Adams. So Katrina Williams is a constituent and the CEO of Changing the Face of Homelessness, located in the heart of Los Angeles. So she's from here, where she is running for LA County Board of District 2 seat in 2024's election. She's known for her work as case management, who has served the homeless and the mental health population for over 20 years. Throughout her career, she noticed an increase in homelessness and a decrease in housing services. She also witnessed the decline of mental health care and realized many were suffering from a series of mental illness. Katrina also started to rebuild the communities and needed to fund our inner city nonprofit programs who are providing services within the community, develop permanent housing and supportive staff on site, and bring real community resources to our youth by providing mind sustaining programs, critical thinking, preparing them for higher learning and employment opportunities. Was tired of was the fact that she was a business owner and seeing that there was a lack of resources, capacity building for small business owners. So that has been an issue nationwide. So if you want to know more about the campaign, Go Williams 2024. We are a team of constituents ourselves. We're coming from areas throughout the United States, and we continue to have faith, put faith in our governance. Our Los Angeles County budget, just briefly, is a $60 billion budget. Without further ado, our Los Angeles County Board candidate, Katrina Williams.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Bay is our campaign manager, so I really appreciate her. She has a lot of knowledge. She's out here in these streets. She's in the trenches doing the work. And I met her on Skid Row, I believe. And she's just a phenomenal woman out here implementing change and going hard at it. I am the CEO of Changing the Faces of Homelessness. I operate a nonprofit organization, and I'm gonna be honest about it, because we really out here doing the work. We service the community. We house the homeless for real. We bring them off the streets, we put in a home, and we provide services right on site. And I take this job very seriously, also as a caseworker who's been doing this work for now over 20 plus years. I have seen so much. And to move from Arizona and work as a mental health caseworker there for pretty much the majority of my career, and to come out here to Los Angeles, where I was born and raised, and see the homeless crisis on this level was very disturbing and frustrating to me. And to step into the seat as a housing provider and realize there's not a lot of supports for small nonprofits out here who is out here doing the work. Very difficult to get funding, very difficult to apply for grants. And we're out here, we're servicing the community, and we're not supported by our local officials. That is the main reason why I decided to run. We have to do something about the homeless crisis. We have to support our small businesses and our small nonprofits within our district so we can continue to do the work that we do. So small business continue to stay open, and kind of give you some information about what's going on in the community, what the funding is like within LASA and LA County. And then I'm going to talk about some programs that I will like to implement as the new supervisor, and then we'll move into the Q&A. So some of the community issues that we are facing right now is the lack of support for small businesses and small nonprofit organizations, the homeless crisis, the shelters versus housing with supportive services. The shelters is a temporary stay. Now, I used to work with Volunteers of America at the Hope for Home shelter in Pomona. That's probably one of the nicest shelters that I have worked at. It's like a 5-star hotel. However, it's still a shelter, and everyone is congregated into a dorm-like setting with bunk beds. That's not how we should be living. When they come into these shelters have a program called Bridge Housing. And what we're supposed to be doing is, as they come in, we're supposed to sit down with them. We've developed a housing stability plan, and we help them get their ID, their social security card, employment, and then we're supposed to help them with housing. However, that's not happening. We get a lot of pushback when it comes down to funding. We also have the barriers with landlords not really wanting to work with the homeless population. So what happens is we find a lot of people now living in shelters, not for 2 or 3 months, but for 2 or 3 years. And that's the problem here at this one place. So now they're stagnant, or this now becomes a permanent placement. And then we still have individuals on the streets in tents, and we have more people moving into homelessness because of the inflation that's going on. So we have a revolving door of barriers within the homeless crisis. We need to be implementing programs with housing services, housing with services, because then that way we can move them out the shelters into a home and give them the services they need to move to the next level so they can re-jumpstart. We also have a housing instability crisis. And I said instability because we have high rent. I am repping the people because I am the people. And I have to pay high rent just like everybody else. It's not affordable. And it's not just now about low-income families, it's about working families. We got people going to work every day who can't pay their rent. So now we're looking at a different type of homelessness. We got working class families sleeping outside in their cars. So now we done generated what? A homeless parking lot. That's not the answer. So we got working class people who's going to work every day, working a 9 to 5, getting a paycheck and going to the parking lot and sleeping in their cars. The next thing is the youth programs. We have reduced youth incentive programs. What's going on with our young people? We have them out here in the streets. They're dying. They're dying in the streets from the violence. They're dying mentally because they have nothing to stimulate the mind. So these are things that we need to do. These are things that need to be incorporated if we really want to see our community rise up and win. If we want to move to the next level, if we want to have economical growth, we're going to have to tackle the issue with our young people because they are the future. And then, of course, we have employment. And the reason I kind of left employment kind of blank, because there's a lot of things deviating around that. We need good paying jobs in the community. You know, rent is sky high, and we're not going to make it off of $16, $17, $18 an hour just because they raised the minimum wage and gave McDonald's, told McDonald's I got to pay $20 an hour. Well, okay, that's cool. But the problem is you have increased the wages in a position that, I'm just going to be honest, that does not deserve to be paying $20 an hour for. And then what you did was told McDonald's that, okay, now you got to pay your employees $21 an hour. And we all know when they was working minimum wage, they wasn't getting 40 hours a week. The 40 hours a week went to management. If the cashiers and the janitorial crew wasn't getting 40 hours at minimum wage, now they're getting the bare minimum hours at 21. So we need to have real jobs that's going to meet the real needs of our community so we can sustain this cost of living that we're forced to live in. To the funding. So this is the budget that's right now today. So the LA County fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. LA County homeless budget for 2023-2024 was $607 million. That's the budget for homelessness. $270.2 million was allocated for interim housing, which is temporary housing with the shelters. So that money actually is for the shelters for the bridge programs. And you take, I think it's like 200 agencies, BOA, PATH, People Are Concerned, et cetera, and they are paid from the $270.2 million. Then we have $182.2 million allocated for permanent housing. Homeless agencies also receive the funding for interim housing. However, they also have a permanent supportive housing program under rapid rehousing. So they're being funded twice. However, we're not seeing the results of housing. And that's important. It's important that we understand the data and the numbers because the funding is here to implement the programs that I'm going to talk about. Also, there's over 1,000 beds available within LA County District 2 through the small nonprofit housing providers, and I'm one of. So between this group of nonprofit housing providers within District 2, we have about 1,000 beds available. However, they're not filled. And a lot of the providers within District 2 are closing doors because we're not receiving the funding. We're not a part of the $182.2 million. Mm-hmm. We're not receiving any of that money. And that's the reason why I decided to run. So, because we're doing the work that they could actually come into with full kitchens, a living room, a bedroom, washer and dryer, Wi-Fi. So we need to be entitled to tap into that. So it's very difficult. So moving down to LAHSA, fiscal year budget was for 2022-2023. Their annual revenue was $845,367.23 million. So almost $1 billion that LAHSA has for homelessness. $388 million is allocated for interim housing, again, for shelters. So also the shelters are being paid from this budget as well. And that's temporary housing that goes to the shelters. $274 million is allocated for permanent housing. And again, there's over 1,000 beds available for small nonprofit housing providers within District 2, and we're not even receiving those dollars. The money is there. We just need programs that need to be implemented and truly funded. So the next one is the LAHSA revenue. So LA County gives $349 million. LAHSA revenue funders, again, LA County gives $349 million. LA City contributes $264 million. The state contributes $153 million. Federal, $77 million, and then they receive private donors and they contribute $2 million. That's how the budget for LAHSA is made up. That's how the money is coming into the entity for homelessness, okay? Also in District 2, the budget for the homeless RV crisis right now is $14 million. $14 million has been allocated for the homeless RV crisis. However, we haven't seen any plans to develop or implement to move individuals off the streets into safe parking areas for their RVs. And that's a big concern. I've received calls. We have been out. We have went to a town hall meeting out in Dominguez Hills. And that was one of their main issues because they're concerned about the safety on the streets and what's going on with these RVs. And then, of course, Supervisor Mitchell did implement this budget. However, we're not seeing the movement, and that's why we're frustrated. That's what we're here to talk about. That's what I'm here. We now can generate the movement. There are policies that we will be discussing. We're going to discuss it at the next meeting because there's some changes coming up with Measure H. Of course, the COC. These are things we're going to talk about at the next meeting. So I just want to let y'all know. So I want to talk about some of these programs that I want to implement with these dollars. That's going to help District 2 to move and to grow and to prosper and create generational wealth so our district can be sustainable. Every time I turn around, something's closing, someone's moving, something's happening. We have to sustain our community. So the first thing is the community rebuilding program. Now, this is going to be a funding program for small businesses and small nonprofits within the 2nd District. What I'm looking at and proposing is that we start off with the funding, a grant fund of $50,000 up to $150,000. Okay, and this is for startup and also to help organizations and businesses to sustain. And when you sign up for this program, which is going to be the acronym CRP, the program is also going to include grant writing. So we're going to connect you with grant writers to help you with grant applications, financial management, workshops to help with accounting and tax preparation, startup courses for entrepreneurs to help with obtaining business license and nonprofit 501c3 statuses. Because this is the thing, is that we can't help you stay open. We can't help you sustain your business. But what we can do is provide funding for you. So if you're going through a hard time, you're going through a situation and you're falling behind on your bills, you can't meet your debts, et cetera, we provide you a cushion. But then we have to give you the tools. We have to educate you because we want you to stay open. Not only do I want to see you stay open, I want to see you grow and expand. Because when you grow and expand, guess who else grows and expands? The community. So when I'm speaking about generational wealth, not just for ourselves, but for the community as a whole, so that we can afford these homes in our own neighborhoods. It's costing $1 million. And the only way we're going to be able to buy a house today in $1 million bracket, we're going to have to create generational wealth. We're going to have to create substantial income that's going to continue to grow and manifest even when we're dead and gone. That's the purpose of the CRP program. And again, as we look at the numbers, the funding is there, that we can allocate this type of program in District 2. Also, the Housing Stability Program. Now, that program will provide a rental stipend, $1,000, up to 24 months. Now, one thing I will be requiring for that program is that we have some teaching investment strategies. If we give you $1,000, your rent is $1,500, now your rent is $500 for 2 years. What we normally do is we spend the money. And the money that you now have, that you have open, we want to teach you how to manage that money, how to invest that money. So again, so you can create what? Generational wealth for yourself and for your family, for your household. Next is the RV Mobile Park Housing Program. That is something I would like to introduce as a pilot. And this is going to help relocate individuals from the streets into new RVs in a mobile park setting, and also develop some mobile homes for families that are on the streets. And this will be a pilot, something that we can roll out, have a nice mobile park where we're going to have supportive services on site, so we can help individuals move to the next level. You don't want to stay in an RV, you want to move into a house where we'll have some services available right on site in the park, where we can help you move into your own place if you don't want to stay in your RV. Some people may want to, but we want to most definitely provide services, mental health services, substance abuse services, because we know what goes on out here in these streets. We have addiction issues that needs to be addressed, and a lot of things occur on the streets. And I'm just going to be honest, especially addiction. You lose your house, you lose your car, you lose your job, and you're now forced to be outside in a tent. You will lose your mind, and you will go out there and you're going to try a substance because you're going to need something to help you cope. There's always a story behind the situation. And that's why I love what I do. Because I go out and I talk to the people. I want to hear your story, because the only way I can help you, I got to hear what you're going through. And we have people that makes decisions, and they're not even out there speaking directly to the source. So that way we can sit down and have a real conversation and try to figure out what's going to work for you. My motto, help me help you. And that's how we move. So the next one is the youth programs. And Dr. Bay and I was talking about this earlier before we came on. This is so important. We most definitely have to give back to the youth centers. And this is something that I most definitely is going to implement. We need youth centers with recreational services such as sports, music and art, and vocational training. That's important. We know that there's some centers out here that offer vocational training, they offer nursing services, welding and things like that. But we're dealing with a whole different type of generation. And we need to go digital. We need to offer digital programming. And that's what's going to get the young people inside. We have to now meet them where they're at. And we don't have to meet them in the streets with the violence, but we need to meet them where they're at. And right now, where they're at is on these phones. Where they're at is in these tablets. Where they're at is on these computers. So we have to meet them where they're at to get them to come inside. And this is where we're going anyway. This is the future. Digital. We have to start training them up, so that way they can start building and creating. And just imagine, we get these young people in here and now they're doing digital programming. What would that do to the community, for the community? And now we're coming with solutions. And that is what's been missing in the equation. I'm going to say it right now. I'm tired of people talking. You need to tell me what we going to do. How we going to do it? What do we need to do so we can come together and push it, so we can bring it to the forefront? We're not hearing that. Absolutely no. And last but not least is the tax incentive programs, because we do need real jobs that's going to pay real money. Now, what I love about the tax incentive program is that not only can we offer this to the corporations, but also to our small businesses, right? Because now they're growing. We're feeding into them. We are now supporting them so they can come up and rise up. So now we can give them a tax incentive as well. And I'm looking at proposing a tax incentive because, this is something I will 9 times out of 10 will have to take it to the board. Something that we will have to vote on. So I would need the community to back me on this, because this will probably be something that will go across the board from each district. is that we provide a $2,500 tax incentive to corporations, small businesses who are minorities. So that way people can be employed, so we can have these jobs. What I would like to ask for small businesses and the corporations who are doing well is to give back to the youth incentive program. Everything I've discussed tonight is all our problems. We're all dealing with it. We all suffering from it. So to really make things work, we have to come together. With that being said, I know there's a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. We're going to go ahead and open the floor.
All right. Well, thank you so much. A lot of the issues that you've touched has been plaguing us for decades. And this is the time right now to make a change.
This is Brian Rock. I have a question and a statement, if I may.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you. And first of all, I would just want to say this is my comment. Thank you for providing real numbers, real information, real roadblocks, real solutions. This is what people deserve and what they need to understand. Thank you for that. This is exactly how I feel it should be done. But sadly, people argue, as we know, about things that, again, don't necessarily keep food on the table politically and for the people at home. So thank you for that, Katrina. I applaud you. And I'm a business owner within your jurisdiction. I didn't realize that District 2 covers Rancho Dominguez. I operate a logistics facility right off of University Drive there. And out of that facility, I would say maybe 150 families are fed and remain housed by the fact that we're spending on average, insurance factored, we're spending on average $26 an hour for labor. Nothing to applaud because it's very expensive for us and it's still barely enough for them to survive. I have employees call me saying, hey, can I get an advance? Can we do this? And just desperate. And we are facing very high labor rates. We are facing very high property rates. Sadly, my father wasn't rich and didn't buy us buildings, so we leased them. And we're upwards at $2, we're near $2 a square foot. That is a 150,000 square foot facility. That's a big check every month. Mm-hmm. And we're struggling getting new clients because of our costs that we have to cover. So we're looking at expanding, but we're not going to expand in this area based upon the current cost realities. We're competing against Utah, where land is cheaper, labor's cheaper. We're competing with things that are well beyond the jurisdiction of just this district, but ultimately can be served in it. So I applaud you on the tax credits. That's very great. Grants, and helping the people where they live. That is so badly needed. I cannot emphasize from my understanding how important that is right now. Also, Manhattan Beach. My partner, John Watkins, lives there. And I need these people to hear the message. I would love, Katrina, if you could come down to our operation in Rancho Dominguez and come speak to the people, meet my team, because they need to understand what you're doing. And as they can get support for your group in Manhattan Beach, that's some real powerful support there. So in that whole community. So my question is really for you, what can be done, from the perspective of companies communicating with their government in terms of what we really need? Currently, there's nobody we can speak to.
So Brian, the tax incentive right now that I would like to implement will be $2,500 per employee that the companies hire. Thank you for providing that information. Now, number one, I would love to come out to Rancho Dominguez and meet with your team. And I'm going to really just kind of do some brainstorming tonight to see what else we can do to implement to help small businesses. And you're right, because everything is expensive here in California.
You were actually incentivizing companies that are employing certain ethnicities and as well gender, female.
Yes.
Best way to communicate, how can there be, the communication, we are barely hanging on as a company, and the reality is we need to remain open to keep those families fed. and where we can communicate, there's no pathway for us now that I'm aware of, except for
Exactly.
bureaucracy. And so I just ask if you could consider, an opportunity for businesses. So much logistics work is in Rancho Dominguez. I don't know what the job percentage is within your district, but it must be it must be quite substantial. So, my thought is if just the logistics groups who, again, everywhere there's a warehouse, there are people, a lot of people working, moving it, keeping it going. But we're looking at robotics. I've been hit up by robotic companies saying, hey, you can buy, and when I'm looking at $26 an hour, I'm telling my team, we're going to hold on and hire people as long as we can. That's our duty.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Wow. And just to answer that for you is you're 100% right. When we communicate with our officials, it's like we're just the only ones talking, because we can sit there and discuss our issues and our concerns and our needs, but nothing never comes back to us. So what I would like to do is to really schedule a time where I sit down with the businesses within District 2, within your area and any other area. So if there's any other businesses on the call within District 2, so we can schedule a business meeting, because I need to hear what your needs are so we can implement a plan, because they're not listening. And I'm running for office. So if we all come together and vote, we're already discussing the needs and the plan. So once I'm in office, I just have to implement it. And I'm tired of it. I'm really tired of it. So we can start now. And this is one thing that I have been seeing, because there's been things that's been coming up. And so I would love to sit down and schedule something with you, Brian, so we can meet with your companies.
Thank you for that question, Brian.
Yes, your presentation was very thorough and insightful. There were three things that really caught my attention. One, the RV camp programs, the pilot programs, your analysis on mental health and homelessness, and of course, your incentives, tax incentives for people who hire minorities. I would like for you to kind of expand a little bit on the pilot programs. I found that fascinating. And the last issue, how's illegal immigration affecting your community, your district?
Dr. Izza,
Yes,
thank you
ma'am.
so much for those questions. I just housed 3 African student immigrants in our housing program. And I just, matter of fact, took them down to the African Coalition organization today to work on getting the immigration services started. But before I go there, let me kind of answer your questions. As far as the tax incentive, we are speaking about minorities. So Black, Hispanic, Asian, minorities. And so it would be for any minority that they hire. I don't never want to put a ratio on anything, but however, when this is rolled out, we want people to be hired, just on hire, because we will go out and hire a whole bunch of Asians or a whole bunch of Latinos and, maybe, not Blacks, you know what I'm saying? But we want this across the board. But I don't want to put a number on it, because we want to be fair and we're all in this together. But you have to hire minorities. You have to be willing to give back to the community. So it's going to be some things in there that it's going to be a give and take effect regarding the tax incentive, because we want to be fair across the board, because it seems like that we get left out a whole lot of stuff. So I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it at all. We get left out of a whole lot of stuff. So we want to be fair across the board.
Right.
The pilot programs. So you was referring more to the homeless RV program?
Yes, I found that to be fascinating.
Well, this is what I love about the homeless RV program. Actually, I was out on Compton Boulevard in Compton, California. Miss Brooks, one of the organizers for the town hall meeting that we attended, was talking about that area, and I was driving through, and I got out and I walked Compton Boulevard and I spoke with the people. And there was one lady out there, Miss Lupe. She was a senior. She was 65 years old. And she was not even in the RV. She was sleeping in her car. Her legs were, her legs were swollen. They were this big. And this is serious because, like she said, not everyone want to live in this condition. People see these RVs and they tour up, and they think, okay, well, they all drug infested and decide they want to live. That's not true. She said, I'm out here. They lost their place. She was fighting for her grandkids, and actually her daughter was in an RV down the way, and that her income, she was on Social Security. She gets the $1,100 a month. She can't afford an apartment, and she is now priced into homelessness. So we walk around with the stigma. We want to stigmatize everyone that's homeless and say, oh, well, they that's dirty and tore up, and they hoarders, they this and that. You don't even know people's stories because people won't stop. I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. Politicians will not stop and talk with the people to hear what's really going on with the people, but you're quick to say so and so and so is there because of this and this and this, and that's not the case. So after speaking with Miss Lupe, this homeless RV park would be a place because there's land all over LA, and that is one of the biggest concerns Ms. Brooks was talking about. Why are we not utilizing the land that's here? Thank you, Dr. Bay. This is Ms. Lupe. And so while we're not utilizing the land, so we need to take this land that's available, that's probably 9 times out of 10 that's owned by the county or the city, and we need to develop it where we have this RV mobile home park. And I'm talking about where we got green grass, we got a playground, we have childcare services, because we need to be helping families we need to help them get back to work. We need to help them sustain, So we have childcare services. We have mental health services. We have a mental health clinic there. We have an agency there. We have substance abuse counselors there. Where they can actually right there on site, don't have to feel shameful about it. They can get out their RV and walk right across if they're having a crisis and see someone. So I called it a pilot because, something on this magnitude, we have to see how it's going to work. Most definitely, we have to collect the data. So this is something that we can implement throughout LA County. Because when we incorporate the mobile homes with the RV park, we can also now move families. And I have already, researched it. I already looked at the RVs. I found some not RVs, the mobile homes, really cute, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. They're about 900 square feet. I think one was like 600 square feet, but they're really cute and designed very well, and they're homes. So we're looking at starting a pilot program out with about 100 RVs and 100 mobile homes, and we can do it within that $14 million budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the immigration problem, we have received a referral from Southwest Key Programs in San Diego. I shouldn't say a referral. They have reached out to one of the local agencies, and they reached out to us. The reason why they was reaching out because they was looking for housing for these 3 kids. And this is the issue that's going on at the border. We have so many people crossing the border and there's no services available. Now we have kids coming across the borders. They don't have parents or family with them. Some are crossing the border and they're getting sponsored, or they do have families here in America that they're going to. So Southwest Keys program is like a temporary shelter, and the program originally was designed to house the youth that was coming across the border for 30 to 90 days. However, since it has increased dramatically, they had to change it and make it up to almost a year. However, the problem is that once these young people, these children turn 18, on their birth date, when they turn 18 in the program, they have to discharge them. So if they don't have a sponsor, if they don't have family, these children are being discharged into homelessness. So we got people coming across the border. We got the immigrants coming in. These kids are coming in and they get temporary shelter. And then once they turn 18, the law doesn't provide any more services and they're being discharged to the streets. So Southwest Key Program have built a report with these young men that we have in our program today, and they did not want to see them on the streets. So they was reaching out to different organizations to see if they could find placement. So when they came down here to LA and I met with these young men, these kids, I was very impressed. They're very humble, they're very respectful, and they're very manable. And we took them in because, you know, when you're undocumented, we can't apply for services for them. There's no services. You're undocumented, you receive no type of financial assistance, you receive no services. They won't even give them food stamps, so they can't even get EBT. And then after that, I just said, I'm just going to sponsor them and we're going to help them go through this immigration process. And we're just going to continue to carry them, because what I refuse to do is to have kids on the streets. That's what I refuse, documented or not. Just because you turn 18 doesn't make you an adult. You do not have the knowledge and you do not have the wisdom regarding life. You're not grown. So we cannot be having children coming across the border and then putting them out on the streets for predators, because that's exactly what's going to happen.
Since you're on the street, you have the ear of the people. What has been the response by the African American community? Has it been like the response of Blacks in Chicago, or even in my own city, whereby you're having a number of African Americans, they're having some problems, not with the Africans or the Haitians that's coming, but primarily of light-skinned Latinos? What are the people saying in your area on the streets?
Well, the people feel that with the influx of Latinos coming across the border, is that they feel like they're getting pushed back. And that's, I'm just being honest. They feel like they're coming in and they're being placed into the shelters, they're being placed into Inside Safe, and they're getting first dibs on housing. And that's how they feel. That's how they feel. And this is the thing. This is the problem. It is a problem. Skid Row is 98.99% Black. We're on Skid Row, and then they have immigrants that come in, and then we're getting pushed to the side. So it's kind of hard to get pushed to the side when you're already down in the pit. So there's no more, there's no lower that we can go. So we most definitely have to implement programs to move. And this is the thing. That's why we need a new person in office, because the funding is there. It should be no issue why we don't have housing programs in play.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
What do you see as the last two administrations? What do you know you can get done that you can do differently than the two previous administrations in your particular office?
One thing that we can do is implement real programs that's going to meet the community real needs. The data is there, the funding is there, it's not being moved. And the reason why it's not being moved, to be honest with you, that's the question for the ones that's in administration right now. And they have been asked that, but we never get a direct answer about why it's not being moved. I could speculate why they're not moving. You know, when you hold back, people who are struggling, they want to be dependent. There's really no excuse for what's going on with the current administration. It's really not. We're at the meetings, we're knocking on the door. I'm sitting on committees and we're telling them 24/7, 365, and it's not being done. When I see the data, I see the reports, I see the numbers, I see the funding, there's no reason why there's nothing stopping the current administrators for implementing services that's really going to benefit the community that was placed there by the taxpayers. It's our money. So we just have to act, but we have to get there first. We now have to vote strategically, and vote individuals in office is really going to rock for us. And it has to be a person that's in the community. It has to be a person that's working for the community. It has to be a person that's connected to all people. I could walk in there and sit down and say, this is the plan, because the plan is already written. And I walk in, the community walks in with me. And that's what the people need to know. That's what the community needs to know, that the person that you vote for, that individual should be walking you through the door right along with that individual. When you come down to these board meetings downtown, when you come down there, you have your 1 minute, and I'm sitting in the chair, I'm listening to you. I love the people. I love him. When you love God, you love his people, the good, bad, and the ugly. I'm always going to come and talk to the community because that's how we win.
Right on. And we do have a question in the chat from Empress Chi. She had great information and insight. Thank you. I'm in Philly, Pennsylvania, and travel to make social justice evaluations to further develop necessary solutions. With that said, a lot of you conveyed is going on in various cities that have large populations of Black people. My question is, does the issue of reparations play any role in your programming projections, etc.?
Wow. Well, thank you for that question. And actually, I have the reparations queen as the campaign manager, Dr. Bay. That is something that I do believe in. I do believe in the reparations. What I would like to see happen with reparations is that we are given our 40 acres in a minute. We need to have land. Land is wealth. And when you have land, you can build. When you have land, you can farm. This is what we need to be focused on. We're talking about generational wealth. We're going to have to be willing to put the work in. And when you can turn around and you can farm your own food, that means that now you can open up grocery stores. And now you can supply your own stores with your own food, with your own crops. And this is what we have to start talking about. We have to start looking at things in a different mindset.
Reparations is a federal issue. And Empress Chi, actually, she is the Million Women World March is part of that caveat in order for us to see reparations a lot quicker as well.
I just want to hear, what is your concern in the community? What do you want to see changed? We the people, so we're the ones that's supposed to be talking and saying, okay, this is what we need, this is what we want implemented. And then what the government's supposed to do is go back and take everything that we say and then develop the plan, implement it. And my job is to service the people. This is what I do in real life today as a CEO for a housing organization. My job is to serve my community. My job is to house the people who need housing. As a caseworker, I work in mental health. I worked in the homeless sector. My job was to provide services. And that is what our politicians are supposed to do. They're supposed to be serving, but that's not happening.
You know, Katrina, I have, as you speak about community, I'm familiarizing myself with the cities within your district. And you have such a wide variety, as you mentioned, international housing. Culturally, I mean, you have Watts, again, you have Manhattan Beach, you have the beach communities, you have Compton, so many areas that are in need. And, I wonder how this community within your district can be brought together in understanding and serving. And so from that perspective, I'm wondering if there are any thoughts in terms of events which can be done and bring people in from the different areas within your district, pre-election, post-election, after you win the seat. Because again, the community element, and you touched on it earlier, many people are struggling to find community within their own households, let alone if they find themselves out on the streets, there is nowhere else to go. And we all see evidence of that. And so, where one can have empathy or understanding in a different part of that community, I wonder how that gap can be bridged through true leadership, which I'm quite confident you'll bring to that seat. Just a thought in terms of what can be done to create a community within that district, because quite clearly from my perspective, I see all these towns, we'll call them, and they're all completely fractured, completely different in so many ways.
Brian, thank you for that. And that's one thing that we do a lot. We do a lot of community outreach events. Now, we do have the campaign makeover coming up. We're going to be at USC on February the 15th because we want to tap into the young people. So we're going to set up, we're going to have the CFN radio show, which I'm also a part of. with DJ Trey. We're going to bring the music, we're going to bring the food. However, we're going to be discussing the campaign, the politics, the issues, and hear from the young people. Another thing that I would like to work on, Brian, is some type of community festival about doing something in Watts. So, well, it's Ted Watkins now, but when I was growing up, it was Will Rogers Park, where we could do a community event at the park so we can have at least, start connecting with different areas within District 2. Can we do something out in Manhattan, Redondo, those areas? Let's put some type of events together, because that's the only way we're going to get the people to come out.
Yep.
So we do these community outreach events.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing about the RV parks for the displaced people in my area. A lot of people living in makeshift tent cities of their own. The homeless population is astronomical. I'm trying to do what I can for the ones that are already out there. So I want to get, like, say, the RV parks. But like I say, if we can get some land allocated, like Dr. Bay always says, go down to our city council and see which lands are owned by the government that we might be able to acquisition for that cause.
Thank you, Black Lightning.
I want to address a couple of things that Black Lightning was saying. The RVs. So I had a young man here. He was 19 years old, and he came to our Skid Row event, and we housed him here in our program. And when I brought him into the office, the first thing that he said, Miss Katrina, he said, they offered me a tent, but I refused to take it. He said, because if I would have took it, then my mindset would have been conditioned to sleep on the ground. And so he wouldn't take it. And I was sitting there listening to this young man like, wow, 19 homeless on the streets, had a whole lot, had trauma, he been through a lot. And to know that it's a conditioning mindset. So when we talk about the RV parks, we want to talk about moving individuals from these RVs that are completely just trashed and roach and rat infested into new RVs, because we do have a $14 million budget that's sitting in District 2 right now today. You can go to Holly Mitchell page, go to our town hall meeting, and you will see that in our meeting, she talked about the allocation of $14 million directly for the homeless crisis issue. For the RV crisis issue. So we need to get a park, and we need to provide new RVs. So that way these RVs that are infested, we're not bringing that into a new area in a new facility. Because the first thing that we have to do is change our mindset. And I'm a stickler on that. No mindset change, no lifestyle change. So we have to change the mindset. And like Ms. Lupi said, not everyone want to live in those conditions. She said, I want a clean place to stay. I want a clean home. So not everybody want to live in those conditions. So we need to transform the mindset and offer new RVs and then new mobile homes for families. So now we're giving everyone a clean environment. And another thing that I do believe in is holding people accountable. So if you're residing in the mobile park, you will be responsible to help clean it up. I've been doing this for 24 years. Some people just don't even have the basic life skills. And that's why it's so important to implement supportive services with housing, because some don't have it.
Greetings all. Yeah, the opening is over for today. It was wonderful. A young Black sister has opened a restaurant here in Philadelphia, and so we had to definitely go and, give her some support. But this is a wonderful conversation. And I'm really made reference to reparations. So let me give a point of clarity. Our brother Sheikh Akbar mentioned it, that Dr. Truth had talked about it, which I really wasn't aware of, but I'm glad to hear it. But one of the things we actually began to do here in Philly was to evaluate the properties that are owned by the city of Philadelphia, as well as by the state and federal government. So with that said, I'm encouraging Black elected officials to do what other groups do when it comes to special interests. You see, other communities have special interest issues that is relevant only to their constituency, their community. And so it behooves us to also make certain that we do something that is relevant to our specific situation. And I know that we have to do that. And thank you so much, my sister Williams. I really appreciate, what you've said and the way you are going about it. So I thank you again. I yield.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
And I just want to kind of address a few of the things that you said, but I just want to thank you so much for your support and staying on the call. That means a lot. The special interest issues. So we have to move differently, and we have to move as a unit, and we're not moving. And I have to be honest about it, because I can sit in the seat all day long, but if I got one person coming there talking and the rest of the community sitting back like, okay, well, so gonna go in there and handle it, then guess what? You put me in an awkward position, because I'm sitting on the board with 4 other supervisors. So how can I advocate for you? And I'm speaking with realness, because this is what I do for my clients when I was working as a caseworker for PATH. You want me to house you? So if you want me to house you, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. So when I go to my boss, who's going to go to his boss, I have something to give. I got something to say. I got something that I'm walking in with to say, this is why I need this. And that's how it works. So that's why I ended up getting 30 of my people housed in real apartments, families, individuals, and kids, because I walked in there with something. So that's what we need.
Katrina, can I just do one quick sidebar, because this is why, and I have a lot of these conversations and have had them for like over a decade, and I totally agree, and you're absolutely correct. However, what I oftentimes say to people, and then I demonstrate what I say. I don't know if you're familiar with the Million Woman March.
Most definitely.
Okay.
The information has been wonderful. I'm so excited to have you run, Supervisor Williams, and looking to support however I can. And we need more God-fearing people in office to look after God's people and to do what He has called us to do in life and ministry. So I'm very excited to, to be running, and myself, and also for you to be running in the seat that you're running for. So thank you for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Hillary. So she is running for CD 14, y'all, and that Skid Row is in her district, and that's important. I can't say that Ms. Hillary is one of the real ones. We have to come together, and we can't, buy into it. So it's going to take us to move us.
I do want to remiss for you to look into your continuum of care. For example, in West Virginia, you have Continuum of Care 513. Just look and see what they're doing, because again, it starts with them. And homelessness, again, is a major issue nationwide. Philadelphia, we also have Supervisor Williams. The floor is yours for any closing remarks.
I just want to say thank you to everyone for just coming in tonight on the call. It was amazing. I took notes. So be on the lookout for the community events. We do have our campaign makeover coming up at USC on the 15th. So a lot of the flyers is on our social media pages. So you can check that out for all the main events. Just stay encouraged and just trust the process. I say this to the residents and to clients that I serve, is that let's just trust the process and let's come together and let's vote. I'm coming to your city. So you're going to see me. And with that being said, I just want to say thank you guys for tonight. It was amazing.
The Williams Campaign